Hello, fermented folks.
We have P. Jelly Clark.
All Makatsu.
We have Travis Baldry.
Today we have a really special guest, Leopoldo Gout.
Are you reeling it in and defending clowns?
I am. Earth doesn't even exist in Battlestar Galactica.
This show gives me heartburn. I was like, I loves it, I hate it.
It's called All Fluff.
Oh!
If you didn't know how I actually feel about The Mandalorian,
Don't worry,
this is it right here. Hello, fermented folks, and welcome back to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the first, where we've had to do it twice, I believe. So, Jack, thank you for coming back. We've got our friend Jack Finn on the show, fellow Seattle area writer, military serviceman in the Navy, and an author of several terrifying books that I will let him tell you more about. But, Jack, thanks for coming back on the show, man.
No, of course, man. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. We're happy to see you. We're happy to be able to fucking hear you this time. Life is good right now.
Yep.
All right, everybody. But how good is life, and what does good look like to you out there in your personal updates? That's how we always start the show for those of you new tuning in. Jeremy Bearme, let's hear from you, bud.
Well, hey. Hi, everyone. I am... So here's my update. Last week was at company Christmas party for my recent new job, where I unfortunately sustained a sports injury while bowling. My middle finger is still quite sore. So
poor buddy.
I know, right? I had to bowl the last few frames left-handed. Which probably I should have been doing the whole time because I got 2 strikes. Maybe I should have just been doing that the whole time. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Well, boy, that's quite a story of trial and tribulation. Justin Herbert has nothing on you, brother. I am stuttering tonight, so roll with me, everybody. Travis, let's stutter on over to you, buddy. What's your personal update?
I have a personal update and a little update of the news story from the Robert O'Tone episode. Just for everyone, this is a positive one. Okay,
Ooh.
Still freaking out.
Wait. Is this one of those situations where we're gonna get positive, negative,
No.
Okay.
No. This is pretty positive. Well, it's positive to the negative. So right now, the Warner Brothers Netflix merger thing, I jumped the gun a little. Okay, and that's where the positive is it's not official. They won the bidding war. They won the bidding war, but no contract has been signed, and it still has to go through the DOJ. So all the monopoly things could come in, the antitrust stuff, and at any point, Warner Brothers could still back out. So it's not official. It might take a long time. That's the good news. Is it's not done yet. Might not happen. Hopefully not, in my opinion. That's my news update, and my personal update is I don't really have one. I kind of just focused on that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know what any of that meant, we just did an episode with Robert O'Tone, and we talked extensively about the looming buyout of Warner Brothers by Netflix, which would have massive implications in the film industry and would be a straight up monopoly. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. My personal update, I caved on getting the Magic the Gathering set for
Which one? Avatar?
the Avatar one. Yep.
Nice.
I couldn't help myself.
Yep.
Jeremy, if you're ever going to get in on Magic with me, now is the time. There is an Avatar the Last Airbender set.
Bro, if I'd have seen that last time I was at Costco, I saw a Spider-Man Magic the Gathering set. I was this close. If it had been Avatar the Last Airbender,
You didn't stand a chance.
There's no close.
The funniest.
It would have been mine.
Yeah.
Clayton and I just talked about both of our wives got that from Costco, and both of them were told, like, "Did you save the receipt? Please take the Spider-Man one back."
Yeah, the Spider-Man
Neither of us wanted Spider-Man.
I agree. Well, see, I like to keep magic fantasy. I don't usually like extended world sets very much. I was fine with Lord of the Rings, obviously, very fantasy, still feels like magic. I don't like when it's like modern stuff or superheroes. That just doesn't work for me. But Avatar totally works for me. Well, in fact, that I bought the whole ass box, and me and Deanna are both building decks, and it's a lot of fun. I'm building my first 4-color deck out of it because there's one where you can create Avatar Aang, but you have to be able to do all 4 types of bending in one turn. So you need a bunch of like different, and the bending mechanics are fun. They're just sort of extra character abilities, but they're all, specific to the bending type. So recommend it if you do like to play Magic and you like Avatar. That's happening out there. And you can go rock with it. It's pretty fun. All the Avatar characters on there, lots of good synergy. So I'm having fun with it so far. That's my personal update. And that was a really long-winded rant about Avatar: The Last Airbender, Magic: The Gathering. Magic, doing this one for you for free, but I'm just saying, we're out here repping a little bit. Something to think about, Magic: The Gathering. Something to think about. We are ready to sell out. Absolutely.
Come on, guys.
But before we do that, we're going to talk about Keeper by Osgood Perkins. Depending on your... actually, sorry. Jack Finn's going to tell you about who he is. Yeah. Jack Finn, who are you, bud?
Hey, what's going on, man? Like I said, I'm right here up in the Seattle area, up on the peninsula, not too far from where you are, and been writing horror for about 5 years. Got this year I put out Prey Upon the Lands and Desolation Hunters, which is my werewolf duology. And just today I sent in my final edits for Red Queen, Yellow King, which is kind of reimaging of Alice in Wonderland, but down as opposed to Wonderland, it intermixes Carcosa. So it's a much darker tale and a much grimmer kind of story. So, but the final dotted the final I's and crossed the final T's today, and so that should be coming out in the early part of next year. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Hey man, you said 2 of my favorite words: werewolf duology. So I mean, I love duologies because
rock hard over here.
I feel like duologies are a really hard thing to pull off, and I love werewolves, so I'm pumped for that.
Yeah, man, it was kind of I'm a history buff, right? And so I like to I've wanted to write a werewolf story for a number of years, and so I kind of struggled with, all right, I don't want to write something unless I really got something unique to bring to the genre. This is set kind of in turn of the 19th century Russia, in a rural village. And one of the things I wanted to do to kind of give a different twist on it was I really looked into the metamorphosis piece of how somebody would actually turn into a werewolf. And I found, I went back to some 17th century writing on metamorphosis by the first woman that started to study like caterpillars into butterflies. And she had some really groundbreaking ideas on it that they completely discounted because she was a woman in the scientific field at the time, that they've only just recently proved that like it's really 2 different bodies growing out of the same thing, not the caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Caterpillar actually dies and the butterfly repurposes the body. And so I incorporated that kind of concept into how the person kind of transforms into the werewolf. So it's kind of a cool story. It's definitely a little different. It's got kind of a Brotherhood of the Wolf kind of vibe to it, based on the time period and stuff and the rural nature. But it was cool. I had a good time writing. People seem to like it, so that's always a good thing.
Awesome.
Hell yeah, man. We are stoked to have you on the show for a sort of second time. Thanks again for coming back on after that ridiculous episode last time, which has now been deleted everywhere, I think. But if you see it out there, I'll give you a bounty of a Fermented Fiction t-shirt if you kill it and bring me its head.
Yes.
Okay, and speaking of killing people and heads and blood and torture and death, we're going to talk about Keeper by Osgood Perkins. And if you don't know already, we spoil everything on this show. So if you want to watch Keeper by Osgood Perkins for yourself, go do that. Go away. Shoo. Be gone with you. And then come back and find out our awesome opinions in this fun debate, how it all went, what the dice gods determined after you've seen the movie. Or if you're a psychopath like us and you don't give a shit, keep watching. We're going to roll 2d20s. High roll will attack, low roll will defend the movie. Quick summary of Osgood Perkins, the keeper. Woman has a boyfriend, goes out to his cabin in the woods, and everybody's kind of like, you sure? And she's like, yep. And everyone was right.
Yeah.
But we're
Can't
going
really
to
summarize this one.
That's how I'm summarizing the plot, and I think that is actually relatively good summary of the plot.
I mean, it's a cabin in the woods. You can fill in the blanks from there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
His cousin's around, and that
His cousin's there, and that's never good when
No.
you go to a cabin in the woods. It's literally never good. So yeah, all that to say, that is essentially the plot of this movie, but that is not to say that that is all there is in this movie, because it's got a lot of stuff in it. We're going to have our debaters talk all about that tonight. Travis is representing Fermented Fiction. Jack Finn is representing the rest of the literary realm. Can our champion prevail? Can Jack prevail? What is prevailing? Can anyone really do it? Who gives a shit? Let's roll some dice and talk about movies, because that's what we do here. You guys ready to roll?
Ready to roll.
I just did.
Hell yeah.
What'd you get, Jack?
I got 12.
I got
Not
a
bad.
9.
Oh,
Ooh,
okay.
boy.
The Dice Gods have named Jack Finn their champion. Travis will debate against Keeper by Osgood Perkins. Jack will start. Y'all have 10 minutes, and be sure to share it. Otherwise, play as dirty as you like. Jeremy, you got that timer, buddy?
Oh yeah, I always got the timer. Now I want a good, cleanish fight. I want something kind of out there. Really go all out. 10 minutes, and it's gonna be absolutely entirely bananas.
Okay.
So we're gonna get started in 3, 2, 1, go.
Cool. All right. So I've got 4, right? I've got what's good about it.
Yep.
Well, first of all,
Starting us off.
best part of the movie is Tatiana Maslany, right? I've been a big fan of her since Orphan Black, and she owned every scene of it, right? She got there. You kind of believe her at the very beginning that she's this kind of Carrie Bradshaw that has never left the city before and doesn't know what to expect out in the woods, and just literally carries every scene that she's in. And you get that added bonus when she actually goes there and copies Minka's accent. You get that little flash to her Russian character of when she was an Orphan Black and was a killer. I'm like, all right, cool. This is going to go in the right direction. The only thing I would have liked was when she, at the end, when she comes down and she says, hey, this fork is going to, best line in the movie, this fork is going in your head one way or the other. You might as well enjoy it. If she did it in the Russian accent, I think that would have sold me. I would have bumped it up for an extra star just for that alone, right? You've got the benefit of when she finally gets into the basement, you get this miraculous appearance of the Cenobites from the Hellraiser movies. These things kind of come out of the walls. I was just waiting for Pinhead. That was really the only thing that was missing from that scene. You got the bag-headed lady. You got all the persons. You got weird uses of honey, right? Which, how do you not like a movie where someone drowns in a jar of honey, right? So Osgood gets points right there for one of the most original kills I've seen since any of the final movies. So you've got that. Plus, one of the best parts I thought of this movie was literally you could probably sleep through the first hour in the last 20 minutes, just as long as you catch Malcolm's exposition dump that explains the whole movie within about 5 minutes. All right. So if you miss everything else, but you catch out, you go to the bathroom, get some food, you know exactly what happened, and you understand everything else. If you miss that, you're completely lost. But Malcolm does the perfect job of explaining everything that happened, all the bizarreness in the movie, all within that time period. So that's why I think you got Tatiana. She speaks in a Russian accent. You've got one of my favorite tropes, the East European party girl that's going to die first, right? So you got that there, and the angry cousin / friend that you can't wait to die goes in a gruesome way. So it's got all the upsides that you would want in a horror movie. That's why I think it's a good show. Over to you, brother.
I hear all of that, and definitely I'm not ever gonna sit here and say any word against Tatiana. She's amazing. I loved her in The Monkey. I'm glad Osgood Perkins keeps her employed. But I was reading the facts for our fun facts of fermented fiction section of this show, and one popped out to me that I'm just going to read right now because it helps my argument. This movie was written and produced during the 2023 Hollywood strikes. And it shows. The writing of this movie couldn't be more clearly like, oh, I have like no employees helping me out, or there's no like writer's room where I can bounce edits off of. This is just scrambled together. I have a cabin in the woods I can use. So this is like the inverse of where this actually happened and was a good result was Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon made an adaptation of Much Ado About Nothing in a lot of the same way, where it was like, hey, we have all our buddies in this house that we own. Let's just go film a black and white Shakespeare adaptation that we don't have to write a script for, and people are going to love it. That was good. This was that, but bad. So you could just tell that Osgood was like, yeah, I'll just like bring all of my friends out and I'll give them this haphazard, exposition heavy, weird as hell script. And I won't even direct them. Like Tatiana did good things because she's Tatiana. But everyone else, what the hell is the acting in this film? It's so stilted and awkward, and like every line delivery from the men especially is like, are you a human? Is this an actual relationship? Because people don't talk and act like this around each other, especially when they're in love. Like I never at a single moment of this film believed that these two people had been dating for a year. It just kept being like, what is this? It seems like this guy doesn't even know his girlfriend, the way he talks to her and acts around her. And so that I was completely like, because it's one thing to say, like maybe they just met and she's crazy going with this random stranger to a cabin in the woods. That I would have believed. But it's like they've been together for a year and yet they still act like this. And it's like, if this is their whole relationship, there's no way she's getting in a car with that guy and going to his cabin in the woods. And then to meet his cousin who acts the same way and be like, yeah, I guess I'll stay here by myself for a whole night. Like, hell no. No one in the modern era is doing that. They'd see that and be like, hey, I want the keys. I'm getting the hell out of here. Like, so that was weird where I just felt like haphazard script with really bad performances is a bad combo. No matter how like crazy the visuals get and how weirdo the horror gets, it can never make up for pretty piss poor performances, in my opinion. And I'll give it back to you, sir.
You know, I definitely up against the ropes at this point. That was, yeah. I mean, it's definitely you sit there and you watch and you think, wow, this is definitely not a couple I would ever want to sit down and eat dinner with. Which is kind of why you enjoy the rest of the movie, right? You think like these are the two worst people until you meet his cousin and his girlfriend. You think these are actually the two worst people I've ever met. And then you know something horrible is going to happen to almost every one of those people. So I think one of the big upsides of the movie is that every character that's unlikable dies, and the only one character that you really like is the one that at the end gets basically her revenge upon everyone else. So it is, and there's, I definitely agree with you that there is having taken place during the writer's strike, which is why I think most scenes don't have any dialogue, just flashes of images. Like, hey, we could get around the writing strike by just not having people speak. That's it's unique. I give them points for trying that. But it was yeah. I mean, when I went to the movie, it was just myself and one other guy that was there, and he actually had bought tickets to Wicked, the follow-up show to Wicked, as a palate cleanse after the movie. So the expectation going in was that this movie was going to be as dark that you need to go to a musical afterwards, just to kind of cleanse yourself of the vibe. And I think Osgood delivered on that. I think the fact that he brought Tanya back after The Monkey was a huge plus and gave her much more screen time than in that movie. But
fair.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. She was out pretty early in The Monkey, and we're going to talk about that later in the show, so I won't give too many of my opinions on it. But I will directly rebuttal one of your points. You say that everybody who's abhorrent in this film dies and the only cool person lives. That's not necessarily true, because the best friend on the phone, she, by all measure, I think is still alive at the end of the movie. And I don't care if she was right. Like, yeah, sure, she was right. This guy's a weirdo. He's a creep. He's taking girls out in the woods and killing them. Terrible person. The friend still sucks. Like, every conversation we get with her is like awful. she's calling her friend a terrible person and like a follower, and that she needs to just like get over herself and come back and be her friend instead of like trying to find love. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that friend, and I don't know if we were supposed to view her as a good person. I didn't. Tatiana definitely was like, okay, you're the hero, I guess, if we have a hero in this movie. But you know who I was really rooting for, and I don't know if this is good or bad, so it's kind of just a neutral comment in this debate, was the monsters, because they seemed to really get the shaft. You know, they were born and then immediately enslaved, and then they're just like looking for their mom the whole time, and they have her head in the basement like Jason Voorhees.
Yep.
Maybe love that throwback. But I'm like, I wish we would have got maybe a little more of them, because they seem to be the only protagonists, which is really messed up to say, that the many-faced crawling bug thing, what did you call him from
the Cenobites? I did like when you did the heart, when she did the little heart with Tatiana. So you know that it's a monster of the heart. This is the kind of monster that you can root for, that you can bring home to mom, clearly.
But why did they keep killing the ladies? Like, I don't. Yeah, they were looking for their mom, but like, it seemed pretty fast that they changed from like, oh, this lady looks like our mom, so now we're just gonna kill these guys we've been like supporting for however many centuries. I'm like, why didn't you do this before? Like, was the food just that good? Like the Eastern European ladies were like delicious cuisine, and so they were like, yeah, sure, we'll keep supporting these a-holes. Like, I don't know what's going on.
3, 2, 1.
Everybody shut up now. We're done. We're done with that.
Good debate, Jack. Good debate.
Good.
You
Good
done
work,
did it.
everyone. You did it. But it's time. It's time that we move on. And what better way to move on than with our, frankly, no longer relevantly named beer of the week.
Right.
That's true. We rarely have. Well, Clayton usually has beer.
Clay
I
does
usually bring a beer of the week.
some of the time. Yeah, most of the time even.
I have one right now. I have it's athletic because I'm taking another break, as I do once in a while. Athletic and my friend here, like always, rolling with that in the holster. Yes, Travis, what do you got?
Well,
Also, I love your. I did have to comment on. Tell me this movie was written by a dude without telling me, and you're totally right with that whole situation. Sorry, now go ahead.
I wanted to be in the spirit of Cousin Darren, and I had my wife. I think it's even more in the spirit to ask my wife to do it, but she made me a Manhattan, which seems like something Darren would definitely drink.
Absolutely.
For reference, though, I didn't like command her or anything. I just asked my bartender wife to do what she does better than me. So thank you, lovely woman. It's a great Manhattan.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
How about you, Jack? What do you got?
So I've been out in our atmospheric river, so I'm actually sporting the hot toddy with a little of the local Cocoa Bomb whiskey in there to chase away the cold.
Nice. Yeah, you've been out there doing Navy stuff. What do you have to go out there and do? If you can tell me that.
Yeah, just kind of keep everything floating. Really is without getting into it, when having greater details, is keep everything floating.
Yeah, keeping things floating. Right on. Okay, Jeremy, what are you going to be floating down your gullet there tonight?
Well, hey, for reasons that we'll probably get into, I busted out the old infinity bottle.
Yeah.
Once again.
All right.
Nice.
Affinity Bottle's
Yes.
back. This is the second appearance of the Affinity Bottle this season.
Nice.
Oh yes, it's
It never
it's
ends.
getting some work, and hey, it's getting maybe better.
Oh,
Maybe.
Did you
Yeah.
put a whiskey stick in there?
Oh yeah, there's been one in there. I'm trying to help it out as much as possible, but it did
Nice.
start off as Kalila. So what are you gonna do?
yeah.
Okay. If anybody happens to not know what an infinity bottle is, it's what it sounds like. You just pour the dregs of lots of different stuff into it, and it always refills. That's the thing about it.
If it makes anybody feel better, after this, it's getting some of my Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yellowstone's good, but I'm
Yellowstone's
just
good.
imagining like Yellowstone mixing with anything. Ew. I'm thinking of my college days with Rage Cage and the like center cup just being the dregs. Anyway, bad times.
Yeah. Just in general too, just like mixing liquors. Just
Hey,
without
it's
any
mostly whiskeys.
That's good.
that is good. I'm
guess it's
glad there's a
consistent.
dominant flavor in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Um,
dominant flavor is the Kalila because it tastes like smoking band-aids.
Distinct hints of rubber.
Yes. Well, that was quite a that's quite a way to think about a drink, and I'm glad you got it. Are you just doing that thing neat?
No, I tried that. It's a bad move. So what I have here now is this holiday creamy vanilla Coca-Cola.
Festive,
Yeah.
very festive.
Very
Yeah,
festive.
see? This is a Christmas-ish movie. Somebody learned something of Christmas, I bet.
No.
There is some tree ornamentation, to be sure.
There are trees. Yeah.
And red is one of the colors that they ornament. Well, the main color that they ornament things with. Which, so
Yeah.
you know, there's something there, Jeremy. There's something there. Bit
Why
of gut
not?
tinseling going on, and that's very festive indeed. Travis, do you want to tell
Yeah.
us some other facts about this movie, like the one I just shared?
Well, there's not a ton because it's brand new and also just doesn't have a lot on IMDb, and that's okay. I already
Yeah.
said one of the first ones. It was 2023 Hollywood strike movie. The downtime that Osgood had, he conceptualized it, and he actually, this is really cool. So I used it for my fodder for my debate, but it's actually, he like brought his team into the conceptualizing of it and like continued to pay them just through like ideas. So like he kept them afloat, his close production team, as much as he could while the other projects were stalled, to like keep them on some sort of income, which was cool for him. Perkins has emphasized, and I think he's done it, that he wanted his like first three films to be markedly different in tone and structure, and they are. Long Legs, The Monkey, and Keeper all feel pretty different to me. There's one unifying principle, and that is he doesn't care what risks he's going to take. He just does. He does what he thinks he should do, and we'll get into that. There's a teaser for Keeper secretly screened in the post credits of The Monkey, which was cool. He cited The Shining and Woman Under the Influence as stylistic touchstones. And the last fact, which is my favorite of them, is that several domestic symbols, which I did notice this, and I liked this about the movie, boxed cake, jars of honey, and the standard cabin in the woods and like fireplace thing were all used as like to be subverted into like, usually they bring comfort, but in this movie they bring death and horror and destruction, especially the honey and the cake. So I thought that was cool that he purposely did that, of like, these things are things you're going to sit down and have warm next to a fire for comfort, and nope, they're going to kill you in my movie.
That is what happened. There's no way she's eating that cake, though. Right? Like, come on. That was like, why did she take that bite? But we'll get into all of that pretty soon. Jeremy, Jack, you guys got any facts you want to add? It's obviously a really new movie, so.
Nah.
Sounds good. Pass. Okay. Onward and upward. This is the part where we're just going to talk about what we actually thought. And we always start with our debaters. We always start with our low roller because they had to go second in the debate itself. Travis, what did you really think about Keeper? Were you lying through your teeth?
I lied a little. I actually think this movie's. I was surprised by it. I definitely do think the part about like it being a bit of a haphazard script, and I like that early Jack brought up the exposition dump. Like it's not the cleanest script. It has some pretty big glaring flaws in its narrative and some of its dialogue. The part I lied about is I actually thought that the weirdness of the acting worked towards the story, because for the first like half to quarter to half of the movie, I kept thinking like, what is going on with Malcolm? Like, this is the most awkward dude I've ever seen. And I thought like, is he just a bad actor? But then it kind of made sense. And I saw him like turn at the end that like the whole time he's planning on killing this woman. So like clearly he's uncomfortable the whole time. And she's uncomfortable because this is a guy she's been with for a year that's now acting like a freak. And then I thought the cousin was like funnily over the top, and it was like he just did everything he could to make us love when he gets his head torn off. So I lied about that. I didn't think the acting was a detriment. I actually thought it complemented the story. I'm a big Osgood Perkins fan so far. This is his weakest film, but it's still it's bold, and he tried something. And like in modern cinema, that's saying something. Like people do it, but to do it in the middle of 2 weekends where like every movie was a sequel, like the 2 box office weekends that sandwiched him, everything was a sequel, a prequel, or a remake. And this was a like little breath of fresh air of like, wow, original project, swings for the fences. Like no one can ever say Perkins pulls his punches. And the final thing I'll say that made me actually kind of like this movie, I don't think it's perfect by any means. I definitely wouldn't give it 5 stars, probably like 3.5. But is that one thing that I keep consistently seeing from Perkins is that he also doesn't shy away from giving you an answer, and that answer is very supernatural. So he doesn't do the fake out thing, which I love. Long Legs, he could have done it, and he just was like, nope, it straight up is the devil. The monkey, he could have done it, and he was like, nope, this thing is a cursed item, and it's all like tied to these 2 twins. And this movie, he keeps you guessing for most of the movie. And then I kept thinking like, oh, it's going to be like ghosts, but they're not really ghosts, and he's going to leave us on this cliffhanger. Nope. Like it's these entities that have lived in the house, and they're mad that these boys killed their mom, and they're like, they're there, like they're actually physically there and have been killing the girls. And then they see Tatiana's character who looks like their mother, and they're like, okay, we're gonna worship her like a mother, and we're gonna dunk this guy's head in honey and kill him. And I love that. I love the fact that Osgood's like, there is an answer to this. It's gonna be weird. A lot of people are gonna be like, what no, I hate it. But at least it ends and has like a definitive ending. And I respect that. So that's kind of my views on it. I walked away thinking, what the hell did I just watch? But in kind of a good way. It's also looks good. Like cinematography was fantastic. I think the weakest part of this is the script. But I think a lot of elements work to kind of offset that.
I agree with you. I think Osgood's really good at, he's really Osgood at like letting you know how we all know kind of where the stories are going, and he doesn't pretend that that's not where they're going. He's like, yeah, obviously. Are you coming or not? This is definitely what's happening. Like Long Legs has a little more of a twist, obviously, but the monkey and this are both just like, yeah, this is going where you think. Do you want to see my version of that?
And it's super weird. Are you ready?
Yeah, exactly. Jack, what did you really think? Did you have to lie? Do you actually love this movie?
Well, a little of both. I definitely agree that this is probably somewhere in like a 3.5 kind of range. There's definitely some things I really liked about it. I will tell you one of my favorite lines, aside from the fork in the headline, was when Malcolm is like, "Hey, you think we're bad? You should see the neighbors down the road. They make us look like choir boys." And that kind of paints that like this wooded area is full of all kinds of craziness and all kinds of supernatural things that are there, not just there. I really like the symbiotic relationship. That the reason that the offspring and Malcolm and his cousin kind of continue. They had a long life, and the offspring got to be fed. I kind of like that. I think even more so than the actual script. For me, what would have probably bumped it up almost a full star is they're so awkward from the beginning. You know, you sit there and you're like, man, these don't even feel like people that know each other. I think if they had started off as like a kind of almost like a joking, easygoing couple, and then it shifted once they got to the cabin and gave you that kind of jarring feeling, it would have been, because then you would have felt almost like Liz feels, right? That she goes, she's in this relationship, everything's going great, and suddenly things are different. But I kind of felt like through the whole beginning, it was such like an awkward relationship that it was almost a continuum, right? Of course, when it goes to the cabin, it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. And then as things happen, you know, of course, he's going to go into the city and he comes up with the world's worst lie to cover up why he was there. But yeah, I mean, I think visually it's a really good movie. I think that Tatiana did a fantastic job of really selling every scene that she's in. You know, she's one of those people that has such emotive reactions that it keeps you entertained and enthralled for the scenes that are there. You know, I was really curious to see how this was going to wind up, and it definitely took a couple different twists, and the ride was fun, right? I mean, there's the exposition dump kind of explains the whole story to there. You're like, all right, I get it, you know that, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think it wasn't derivative of other things that you see. You know, you go to a lot of movies now, and you're like, you know, this is kind of like that other movie. Osgood definitely created something unique, and I truly appreciated that. It was kind of an experience to sit there, and it's almost like the first time you see a movie like The Wicker Man, right? And you're like, man, what I watch? Is this a musical, or is this like what's going on here? You know, there's like singing and sacrifices, and it's kind of weird. And I think this is one of those movies that, like, as you come back to it, you kind of appreciate it more and more. You know, you don't know where it's going, and take some funky twists and turns. But then once you kind of go back, I'm looking forward to kind of once it starts to stream to kind of sit and kind of appreciate like the setup and catch those kind of little Easter eggs of where the story's going that I probably didn't catch in the movie theater. But yeah, I mean, I think it was. I think in hindsight, next year I will probably like this movie even more than I liked it when I was in the theater now. So,
yeah, I gotta say, I'll just hop in here because I gotta say this movie, my favorite thing it did was it delivered on the horror elements of the movie. Like, it was a scary movie. You know, as horror movies go, it had really frightening visuals, and the creature payoff was great. You know, like that many-faced screaming lady monster was super scary, and just like amazingly put together. So I thought that was a lot of fun. And throughout the movie, the monsters are pretty terrifying, and they have kind of like a manga type creatures feel, but put on the real screen. And I don't know how many times I've seen it done better than it's done in this movie for like that kind of a creature, like a weird fae kind of like evil shapeshifter creature. I'd be interested to hear what your guys' thoughts on that. But this was some of the coolest creature work I've seen for a long time. And it definitely pays off at the end. Like it genuinely ramps to a more scary version. And a lot of the times you see it once, you've seen it twice. Like sometimes it just gets less scary when you add more of them, because it was one feels indomitable. If there's 20, then we know the character has to be able to kill them. Like with Alien, right? I've rambled about that before. So I really like that the monsters in this movie did feel super inevitable and terrifying once they like crawled out, and you're like, oh, she's dead for sure. Like there's no way she's getting out of this. and there was also that like childlike energy that they had, and this like subservience, this bondage, and that part of them was creepy too. Like what they are was creepy, and where they came from and what they've been feeding upon. So yeah, I thought that stuff was really cool. The horror elements in this story were written really well, I think. I kind of do agree about the characters' stories don't really add up to me, and it feels a little bit like just reasons to get them to this place, so that he could do what he really wanted to do, which was play with these cool creatures that he created. And that's awesome. Like, let's do that. For sure. So I'm not really knocking it, but I do think the characters are pretty weak. The choices don't really make sense. And yeah, I agree with you. Like the straight up chemistry on the screen. I thought I liked that a little bit at first, because maybe I thought he was leaning into kind of a realism thing. And like people have bad weekends like that.
Yeah.
Like those bad vacations, and they are the worst. Like there's nothing worse than like going on a vacation and getting in a massive fight and hating each other the whole vacation. You're just like stuck in this place that you're supposed to like, with the person you're supposed to like, and nobody's liking anything. That's the worst. And I thought maybe he was going for that, but I don't think he was. Like, so it didn't really work for me. I didn't need them to be all cheery and stuff. Again, I like the angle of like maybe this isn't their best weekend of all time happening right now. But it did feel a little bit just sort of like cuz movie. We have to say these lines. Yeah, you're going to eat the cake. But it's like that doesn't really like track. Like, why would she do that? She's like clearly a woman with her own opinions, and like who's gonna like say no. She even does, and then she eats the cake anyway. And that was like, what?
Well, and he's
why did she do that?
They're
maybe I don't know.
Go ahead, Jack.
They're just about to have sex in the movie, and he stopped. He's like, "Hey, before we go to bed,
cake first.
Take this bite of cake." And that's such like an
come on now.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't like cake, I don't like chocolate. That it was that he's like insistent upon her tasting the cake, regardless, was kind of like odd.
And he doesn't eat it.
Hey, that's it. He just wants her to take that one bite. But one of the things that I think works, and it speaks to kind of the realism that you were talking to, Clay, is when she sees the monsters, and I think this is something that's lacking in a lot of horror movies. You could see that her brain is not processing what she is seeing. All right, she goes through this range of emotions of like terror, and she's laughing almost at one point. Like this, there's no way these things are like each one of them is worse and worse and worse than the other, and scarier and more bizarre, that she doesn't pick up something and fight back. She's just sitting there, and her brain is overloaded with, she doesn't try to escape. She doesn't try to do anything to come closer. She's just like, what am I seeing? Boom, right? She just overloads. And which I think is probably realistic, right? If I was sitting in my basement and those things started to crawl out, that would be me. I'd be curled in a ball crying, like screaming and laughing. And I wouldn't be, you're not processing, well, this time I'm going to escape or this time I'm going to fight back or something like that. And I think that was really good. And that really brings home the horror of the creatures by seeing it reflected in Liz, because she's just like, the weekend's already so bad. There's already been so much, real life stuff where she thinks that Malcolm's trying to kill her. And then once she really realizes what it is, it's beyond comprehension. And she just sits there and accepts whatever's going to happen because she can't process anything else. And I thought that was a great aspect of realism that Osgood brought to it.
And her performance when he tells her she's going to die, that was incredible. That was like one of the most believable portrayals of that circumstance that I've ever seen. And I've watched a lot of horror movies. I've seen a lot of people try to do that. That felt so honest and genuine. And she went hard with it. It was awesome. Jeremy, what did you think?
Now,
Nah,
I do
it's
have
time.
I do have quite
It was
a
just
few
me and
feelings.
Jeremy sitting in the theater together, just the two of us.
It was the two of us. Oh my god, we broed down all the way down. And
That's awesome.
now, like, here's the thing.
Oh yes.
Now, when the movie was finished and Travis and I walked out of that theater together, I genuinely couldn't tell if I liked the movie until like after I had like a night of sleep. Turns out I think this movie's just bad. It's just no good. Bad movie. Oh well. Fans of the show who have just seen me drinking out of this infinity bottle before will have already known that, because I only break it out for bad movies. I kept asking myself while I was watching the movie if the movie had its head up its ass or if that was just me.
It's definitely a pretentious film.
Yeah, it's way up there, just deeply up in there. But I think what clinches it for me, even though like the cinematography was stunning, it's incredible to look at. The creatures are scary, so that's cool. Like the movie does an excellent job of like building tension, but it just builds and builds and builds with basically no payoff unless you consider a very old man getting dunked into a jug of honey as payoff, which maybe you do. I don't know. I don't know your life.
I thought that was pretty bad.
I think the performances are stand out in a bad way. I can think of only 2 moments in the entire movie where anybody felt like a human person. And they were both from the main actress. That was the beginning when she was talking to her friend about the beige cardigan, and she was just like, "I don't even know the bitch," and that was pretty good. I think we can go. And the other scene was, when she was facing down her own death after her crazy dickhead boyfriend. It's just like, yeah, you are going to die here, and it's because I love you. It's like, you realize that's worse, right? You realize so much worse than your cousin.
Yep.
I'm glad he's dead. I'm glad they're both dead, actually. Yeah. But yes, I think the movie raises, for me, a lot more questions than it is ever going to answer. Like how these just backwoods yutzes figured out that they had made a deal for immortality, or like how that even worked, how they figure out, like, why do they know that they have to feed these things people? And like, also, why didn't the things just kill them to begin with? They wanted to. They do eventually. And like, but also there's also the thing of like, when you know that magic is real, why would you lure someone who is identical to the person who cursed your shit to your weird geometric feeding house in the middle of goddamn nowhere?
Yeah.
You think shooting a pregnant lady in the middle of the woods is just going to go your way when magic is real? No. And like, that also brings up another question that the movie doesn't even try to address, and that's fine, which is just, what the hell was the dad that's what the kids are like? Like, for God's sake. It's, oh my God. And then, this is pretty unrelated, but like, between this and Twilight, like, why are so many immortals pretending to be doctors? Is that like a thing?
I don't know. Yeah,
is that just
a good point?
Okay, yeah, I don't know. And then like, this is the main other thing that bothered me, which is like, so the cousin's lady friend, like, she is either doesn't speak English or is pretending to not speak English.
Yeah.
But like, why would you convince another person to come to your cabin in the woods when that person doesn't speak English? Also, how? How do you do that? Like, that's kidnapping. That's just kidnapping.
Yeah, I don't
And she's
think they
being
like shy
very
away
cool
from
about
telling us
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely
mean-
kidnapping or human
Okay,
trafficking.
she's really not alarmed by things for it to be kidnapping. She's just like, yes, I'm here. It's a cake. It tastes like shit. I'm like, oh, all right. But, I will say Travis was right about one thing. I am happy the movie ended. It's great. It's great that happened. It is unique. It's a unique film and a unique experience. The same way it would be unique to receive like some molecular gastronomy that somebody is resting their balls in.
I think. Can I
Sure.
answer some of Jeremy's like? But
Please
at
do.
the end, I'm gonna agree with you because here's the thing. I think bad writing. I think really good
Compliment
writing.
sandwich.
Yeah, compliment sandwich. Really good writing is when like I have no doubt that the author intended for my interpretation in a way, like, or at least knew that there'd be a logical way to get to where I get. Bad writing to me is when I like fill in the gaps for the writer and like I know I'm stretching. And so like I can stretch and answer most of your things. Like I think the point maybe with the creatures was that they needed a parent and like so they weren't killing the guys because the guys were like providing for them, and now all of a sudden they literally see the like facade of their mother and they're like, oh, we have someone who's going to do that now. We can kill these two that we've hated this whole time, but at least they brought us food. Like that's kind of the gap I filled in there. I think the Eastern European lady is just straight up kidnapping, and I get the sense that she's just high the whole time. Like that's kind of what the vibe I got is, like she's just drugged, and the cousin's that big of a scumbag.
Probably
then
kept
I-
in check with some level of violence as well.
Yeah, probably some level of violence. The one legitimate, but I think both of those, to your points, Jeremy, are like, I don't know if that was there. I don't know if I'm like eisegeting reading that into the one point I will disagree with you on is I do think there's more moments of good performance from this movie than meets the eye. I think Joseph Sutherland, who plays the boyfriend, most of the scenes when he's like with Tatiana, he's definitely overshadowed and kind of comes off as awkward. But I thought the scene where he like takes the box of her stuff down to the other boxes and is like having this weird moment of like, I hate myself, but I also don't hate myself enough to stop doing this. Like, I think that was actually a pretty good emotional performance where I like believed that he sees what he's doing and he thinks like it's terrible. But there's a lot of people that see what they're doing and think it's terrible and keep doing it because they also, the selfish part of them overpowers that like altruistic side. So I thought that was actually a pretty good performance from him, to give him a little bit of credit. But I do think most of the scenes when they're together are really weird. I also don't know if Darren Burkett Turton that played Darren, I think there's a possibility that he was directed this way because it fits his weird character. And I think it could very well just have been the director being like, just be the most over the top douchebag you can. And he was like, okay. So yeah, those are my little comments.
Right. He probably brought a little bit of spice to it. And Osgood was like, crank it up.
More.
Crank it up.
You know, to dovetail on something that Travis was talking about, it's after the movie, I kind of thought through like Malcolm's performance, like why he was so deadpan. And, his father, when his father was in Eye of the Needle and he plays a German spy living with the, I don't remember if she's English or Irish. He kind of has a very similar demeanor because he's living this almost like double life. And I almost felt afterwards when I really thought about it, that I wonder if he was trying to copy his father's like deadpan. I've got a secret, so I'm going to put up this like blah facade, right? there's not going to be emotional highs and lows. Everything is going to be kind of this like blank slate. And I think like Trav talks about it, when he goes down and he's putting the boxes away, you kind of see him transform. You kind of see what the real Malcolm actually is, and he felt, that this was like the ultimate sense of love, that these women loved him and they loved him so much that they were going to sacrifice their lives so he could continue to live on. Which even just kind of reinforces how evil both him and his cousin are at the end of the day. But yeah, but like I said, I thought about I thought about his performance and why he did it the way that he did it. And I do wonder afterwards if he was trying to copy his father's performance of, this is how somebody would act with a deep, dark secret that they're confined in a place. I think they're confined in a lighthouse in Eye of the Needle, of how you would act to kind of not give any kind of sense. So, but I did think when he went down into the basement that it was kind of a revealing, like, all right, this is really, and he's almost farcical about it. Like, oh, meet Liz, meet here, So he feels, like, oh, I really loved you, and this is really important to me. But then at the end of the day, it's kind of a big game to him and his, they're still playing games in the woods. And that's why you really feel that he deserves to get dunked in the honey. And more so than just a death, he deserves to die in a way that, like, is unpleasant.
Yep.
Agreed.
I think it was one of the points, though, where the script to me was being way too heavy-handed with, like, you had the cousin that was just the, like, hyper douchebag, like, frat bro, masculine, like, creeper that's gonna date rape you. And then his character is so obviously the, like, nice guy that's like, oh, I love you, I'm a big fan of you. And, like, so that one I was like, I get what you're doing here, Osgood. I see it. You're not subtle.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, those dynamics are real. I think he was sort of trying to touch on some real relationship dynamics that maybe don't get explored as much in a lot of horror movies, because you do generally see the happy couple that then destroy the happiness, because that's what good horror does a lot of the time. I just don't think it stuck the landing. So I have to agree with you guys. It was trying to do some of that, but I don't think it stuck the landing on that aspect of the movie. But I still enjoyed good chunks of it. And hopefully y'all are enjoying Fermented Fiction so far. We are going to go to a 5-minute break, and you can enjoy it even more on the other side when we have our panel discussion. So Jack, go ahead and mute yourself, turn off your video so you pop off the screen. Everybody else do the same. We'll see you guys in 5. Goodbye. Hello, Fermented folks. Welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the first of our new season, and I believe it's season 4. The show where we drink beer and argue with each other and bring on really awesome creative guests.
If you'll permit me to go a little bit outside the box. Once upon a time, apparently, people used to sniff mummy remains, powdered mummy remains, like cocaine. So I think 3 lines of powdered mummy remains, if you can get to that as well. Yeah, that'll get you right to really enjoy the movie,
Dave told us all about making a mead, and I talk shit about Tom Bombadil, as I am wont to do whenever people bring up Lord of the Rings.
You would. You should.
And then that's
everybody
exactly what he made.
chill about Tom Bombadil, or I'll get unreasonably upset.
So, in your assessment, what did you think of the everyone kind of paired off, or at least a number of people did, romantically? How'd you feel about that? Did that seem really forced and dumb to you, or?
Tom Bombadil is a merry old fellow with his bright blue jacket and his boots are yellow. Right?
It's our yellow.
Right.
Imagine discovering mummy remains and oh my God, these ancient figures. Dude, what if we crushed this and snorted it, yo? I bet we'd get fucked up.
Let's talk for a moment about the fucking all-star cast in this movie. We have Ewan McGregor, slaughtering it the entire time. Main character energy, top to bottom. You can't argue with it. Women want him, men want him. Everybody wants Ewan McGregor. Okay? If you don't agree with that, you're lying to yourself.
Apparently she had a backstory, but they cut it because she's like very like hard-nosed at the beginning. And then like, I will say another pro of this movie is like their chemistry is hot. And like, I feel like if they didn't have that chemistry, I would have been like, ugh. Because she says at one point, she's like, oh, it's the apocalypse. What are we going to do? Like, fuck. And he's like, and then later when they like are like kissing, if they didn't have chemistry and if it was like two lesser actors, I think it would have been like an eye roll, like felt cheesy, but like you feel their bond.
The Langoliers themselves were originally going to be portrayed by puppets. And I think maybe they should have. Maybe they should have.
Dude, that's amazing.
There's no maybe about that.
And I wish that I could say that there was something greater happening here than the war diary of a broken man living as sort of this White Tower academic with all of his friends sitting inside the Eagle and Child drinking beer and pretending like, you know, Magic Lion Jesus isn't really silly. Because, I mean, it is. If we can just all be very honest with each other.
The Lord's work out there.
Good job. I like to think that I am. Most people aren't big enough, but I am. I'm willing to step up, you know?
Yeah. Dedicate that time.
Settle
You're willing to dedicate that time.
The time, the money, all of it.
Ah, that was so painful. It's one of those painful things.
Oh, that
I've
was
done in my
so
life.
good. That was so good. We've never been so savagely attacked by any author on their show. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are now into the second part of our show where I'm going to ask us a bunch of questions that I definitely hope are good ones. And Jack, you opened the first one up for me because I actually forgot. I didn't realize how much I'm dying to ask this of anybody all the time. And I think it applies to this movie a little bit. This movie has a kind of glimpse into the past of sort of the colonial times of early America. You write books that you say are horror, kind of rooted in specific history. So where do we see the really cool kind of bridge that I think is very prevalent actually a lot of times between history and horror? And maybe what are some of your favorite, two questions, where do we see the bridge between history and horror? And what are some of your favorite historical periods to study?
You know what? Let me work back from that. I think the 19th century, really from like the mid 1800s or so on to the early 1900s, is my favorite time period. Right? I mean, for two reasons, really. One, people didn't have access to a lot of different resources. Right? You don't have cell phones, you don't have computers, you don't have all these things. You don't have GPS. You're left to a lot of your own devices, you know? And so as we explored, the world started to shrink. We started to go into those last few dark corners of the planet that weren't explored in the centuries before that. And you start encountering things. And that really is at the cusp before we get into like World War II and stuff, where people really have to rely upon their wits and very, very minor weapons and things like that to be able to combat it. They really are still exploring the world. It's like we're on the cusp of really kind of shining light everywhere and knowing what's what where. And I like that time period. You know, there's not the like childlike innocence of the age of discovery. We've gone through, you know, wars in Europe, wars here. Everyone's a little bit saltier and stuff like that. And I like that time period. And to go to your first question, what the bridge is between history and horror is, I really think that when you write good horror, that 80% of it is almost factual, right? The closer you can be to having your toe on that line of things that are real, the more realistic the horror is. When I did the Wolves of Clinton duology, Prey Upon the Lambs and the Desolation of Hunters, I studied what life was really like in a 19th century rural Russian village for an extended period of time, what the cultural dynamics were, what the power dynamics were, and it was a shitty time to be alive, right? Like to be able to exist and survive winters and survive the illnesses and all things that in the upheaval was a challenge. You know, death is an everyday occurrence in that time period, much more so than obviously we have today. And so then you introduce like these alpha predators into it, and it kind of heightens that dynamic. And you kind of take these people that are already on the edge of existence, and it pushes them beyond it, you know. And I think when we look at historical periods, that's what kind of bridges that history and horror. When you think of people, you know, in the Jamestown colony, isolated from Europe in these dire conditions, and then you introduce something like a Wendigo or some kind of spiritual force or something like that. You take a very real salient situation and you amp it up by adding in the horror aspect. And a lot of what we do as we expand it out from Europe to the world is we treaded upon so much culture and so much pre-existing folklore that was out there. And I think one of the things that I like to write in there is that there's consequences to that. You know, if you've trod where you're not supposed to tread, if you've disrespected lands, if you've disrespected cultures and things, there's a price to pay. And one of the things that I like in people like Gerald Brom and some others that write that way, write that kind of folk horror, is that the monster is not really the antagonist in the story, right? The monster is the equalizing force that is kind of bringing retribution upon those people that have done things that they shouldn't have done. And I think when we look at history, human history is filled with atrocities and horrible things. And to be able to counterbalance that with kind of a comeuppance from a supernatural standpoint, I think is kind of a cool way to approach it. And so that's kind of where I think that bridge takes place.
And that certainly is exactly how it goes in this movie as well. But that's not really related to history so much as contemporary events. What do you think, Jeremy?
Well, I mean, I think Jack is just kind of right on this one. Like, history is frankly a much easier place for horrific and or like fantastical things to live because of how the past has, like, no matter how complete a history we have on most things, there are these just informational gaps that the present day just doesn't have when we've got like smartphones and cameras and everything everywhere. Like that was one of the questions I walked away from this movie with, is like, wait, when was the last time they did have to feed these things? Because if it was like any time in the last 20 years, then like they would probably be trying to duck the cops basically the whole time. Yeah. Whereas like, and I really don't know how often they would have had to do that, but like the past like just has more areas where you can just fill in the gaps with like, what if there were monsters, you know?
Favorite historical periods.
And a lot of that's like Jack was saying, already baked in to, you know, the cultural beliefs and other perspectives that maybe haven't been told. I think that's something cool about the contemporary horror genre, is we're getting a lot of new writers, new voices from different cultures. And so we're kind of getting to explore these time periods and themes and horror tropes and everything from a totally different lens, and learn new folklore and new monsters. I'm always a fan of doing any of that.
Real quickly, I do want you to expand on the question, but I do want to know what Jeremy's favorite time to study is.
Duh. What's your favorite time to study, Jeremy?
I don't have a preference, because frankly, like, until time travel is a thing, it's not really going to matter to me. And even then, like, I'm white. As long as they speak English, everything's going to be great for me when I get there.
So, not everywhere.
Not everywhere, but yeah, lots of places.
Not
for
everywhere, and not
Like
every time.
most time periods, as long as they speak English and I remain this white, it's probably going to be fine.
Sure. There's a Scorsese movie about that you should go check out.
Maybe.
Travis, I think that's kind of my answer. I just to add something that hasn't already been said, but I agree with Jack. I agree with Jeremy, and it is all. It's the same reason I like isolation horror, Jack. To what you were saying, which is you're already in an extreme circumstance, and then adding that extra supernatural element that makes it something that can't be overcome. And I think those elements, when written well, I think most contemporary elements kind of mirror a real life situation, a real moral lesson or part of the theme, whatever they're representing, the evil that we fight against within ourselves or without. It adds a lot of depth to stories from other angles. It's not just about cranking up the stakes. It's also about exploring the monster side of monsters. And I think that's something Osgood does in this movie, like not like super in depth. We don't know everything about them. We don't really need to. We spend one night with them, it's our first date and probably our last date, like that's just how it goes with them. But there's also so many holes if we were going to get into that that Jeremy made me think of. Anyway, I guess my favorite my favorite time period to study is probably still like Tokugawa era Japan and the Meiji Restoration. I really like those periods of Japanese history. I found really fascinating. Took a whole year-long course on it in college, and it's still one of my favorite periods. So yeah, that's my answer to the question.
I love what you said, Jack, about kind of like you should get as close to like historical truth horror as you can with those kinds of stories, because you're right. I mean, especially as a person who believes like the supernatural realm is very real on a religious level, is like a lot of that stuff is way scarier than anything we can try and like imagine out of our own brains. I think too, there's a level to where what you said of like the reality of just living in a lot of these times is like horrific, especially to a modern audience. I think my favorite period to study has become like recently, as I've been teaching it, the 17th and 18th century, just like everywhere, because it's like all this stuff is getting set up. Like if world history was we'll say recent world history was the 19th and 20th century, like 17th and 18th century is the biggest, most compelling prologue of all time. It's like you can see in Europe, all these alliances are starting to happen that are going to directly lead to World War I. All these laws are happening in England where it's like Catholicism's getting banned, and that's going to cause a bunch of problems like in the future. You see like all the colonialization. Yeah, it's like the 17th and 18th century is the most insane prologue to the story of modern history, and all of it's there. The French Revolution happens there, where it's like a lot of the philosophy is either going to be pro that or counter that. That's going to like shape America. So I love that period. But I'll stop ranting about history because this is a literary I love that you opened the door for that, Jack. I've been like, oh, I can talk about that now because he said it.
Absolutely.
My second question is kind of, I think one of the things this movie does incredibly well, and I'll kind of, oh, sorry, my dog is like jumping on everything. One of the things this movie does really well is the creatures. And Clayton mentioned that. And I think there's an element that I really liked of, I like when movies tease you and then the end is the reveal. I think it's hard for, especially like slasher films, when they like reveal the monster halfway through. And then the rest of the movie is kind of boring because you're like, oh, well, now I know what the killer is. So whatever. I think this movie does that well, of like slow burn up into these many-faced creepy things, these like like Clayton described them, these like fae creatures. So yeah, when you're approaching that in a book, how do you go about creating a compelling creature? You already touched on it a little bit, but maybe if you have a few more thoughts on that, of like, is it a slow burn approach you take? Do you reveal fast? How do you maintain kind of the fear of this creature throughout the entire story?
So, one of the things, and I'll go back to the werewolf tale. One of the things that I liked exploring with the werewolves was, when you have the wolf is an alpha predator, right? It's an animal. It's ferocious. It's deadly, but it doesn't become a monster until it incorporates that human aspect of it. And I think we see that, the more I think about Keeper, we have two things that are there, right? You have the creatures. And then I really think when we're going to talk the monster, Malcolm is probably the worst monster in the movie, right? Even more so than say his cousin, right? His cousin goes out there, like I said, he basically traffics people. He goes out there, finds some woman, can't even communicate with her, gives her some Molly, brings her back. Malcolm is far more sinister than anything else in the movie. When you realize what he does is he goes out there, he spends a year, right, convincing these women to fall in love with him and to come out and that they've got this life. They're going to be a doctor's wife, brings them up to the cabin, and then he kills them, right? And you see that when he's in the basement, that he gets a lot of satisfaction out of that. This is the game to him, right? The creatures are killing people for survival. Malcolm is doing it for personal gain, and even more so than his cousin, who is finding some rando off the street, bringing them back and having them killed. He's getting this person to meet them and like them get to know him and fall in love, and then boom, and I think that's when she gets the flashbacks to all the different women that he's had there over the centuries. They all have that moment of like betrayal. You see they go from like a very lovey kind of image with him to, betrayal, and then ultimately the fear when they realize that they're going to die. And I think that's one of the interesting things when you're building a creature in the story. A lot of times, and I think certainly in a lot of the stuff that I write, you have the creature and then you have the monster, and the monster is more often than not going to be a human in the story. The creatures will kill out of nature, but there is, like I said, once a wolf and the person come in to become the werewolf, and you add that human aspect, that's where the malice comes in. That's where the almost the malevolence and evil aspect of the creature into a monster takes place. And I think that Osgood does a really good job of the slow burn. You get glimpses of things, but you don't really get the great like reveal scene until she's in the basement. And I think that kind of slow burn keeps you wondering and questioning and seeing what it is. And even when you get glimpses of the one with the long neck, it's not really, you don't really get the payoff until the bag lady rips it off and you see the many faces to her.
Clay or Jeremy? Clay? Oh, Jeremy, you unmuted first. Take it.
Do it, Jeremy. Go.
And I think a lot of that is just kind of spot on. I think for me, when you're talking about a creature or a villain and yeah, like Travis said, those all tend to get like largely, especially in horror, in slashers, it gets a lot less effective when you finally see them and you're just like, oh, it's just a stabby guy, or it's it's a monster with a quantifiable number of limbs and like animal habits that we can work around. And like once you show that, once you have that reveal, there needs to also be like a demonstration of why the reader or the audience should still be worried after you know what you're dealing with, to keep it from becoming the horror version of The Money Shot, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
We do, in fact, know what you mean. As does Osgood Perkins. Money shots all over all of his movies.
They are so sticky.
They're so sticky. I like Jack's point about there's creatures and then there's monsters. But it does raise a question for me, which is like, is malevolence prerequisite? Is malevolence the same thing as evil? Basically, is intention required for evil to exist? I'm sure we all have different opinions on that, but I tend to agree with you. I don't know necessarily if it has to be anthropomorphized or, like made a human trait, or if that's just a trait that we recognize in humanity. And therefore, when we see it in something else, we say it's become humanized. But I think things can have a non-human nature that mirrors human nature. It just makes sense for us to connect with it in that way. But for example, like I think a killer whale, an orca, can have like murderous intent, but that's not human. That's orca. Like that's how they be. And like they have all kinds of different lots of emotional range, obviously, and emotional intelligence. So I think we still have a tendency to be like, oh, an orca is like a human, so they're different. It's like, no, they're orcas. They're smart, like in a completely different way, but it does kind of transcend that level where we would assign it animal, even if it's intelligent, like a wolf or a tiger. We still kind of like give them the, for lack of a better term, benefit of the doubt, because we assume that their instincts rule them more than their motivations, or their instincts and motivations are much more aligned than humans perhaps are, especially like in a film set in contemporary times. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that idea? Do you think that intention has to be there for it to be evil? Do you think there's a place for fictional creatures to sort of exist more as their own brand of evil, their own form of intelligent being? Yeah, I don't care who goes first. That's my question, though. And that's what I think. But
that's quite a question.
Do you want to take a swing at it, Travis?
Yeah, sure. I'll take a swing at it. I have lots of opinions.
I know you do.
Yeah, my views are that yes, intention plays a big part into it, because evil is not a thing in itself. It is the deprivation of good. So to be evil is to turn away from what is like truly good and light and true. So I would say that is kind of an anthropomorphic thing, because in my level, like you wouldn't blame a wolf for killing a deer. We might view the way they do it as like particularly cruel, but cruelty being evil is different. So like they sever the Achilles heel and let it bleed out, but they do that because wolves are actually more like scavenger hunters than they are this traditional view we have of them as like badasses. Like they take easy pickings when they can get them, because that's easy. Which is like the same as us. We go to the grocery store instead of growing all of our own product, because the grocery store is much easier. So like I wouldn't blame a wolf for killing a deer like that. I might be disgusted by it and be like, I don't want to watch that nature documentary. But is it evil? I wouldn't say so. I think evil is intentionally turning away from the thing that is the right choice. So that in my worldview, I think that is a uniquely anthropomorphic thing of like, I know what should be done and what is right, and yet I willfully turn away from it. And I think, to Jack's point, that's a monster. Like like this guy, the guy in the movie, I forget names. I'm so bad with names. I'm so sorry. The character in the movie, the boyfriend, like he at some level, and I think the basement scene shows it, he at some level knows that what he's doing is wrong and like on the deepest level wrong, but he's justifying it because of this love thing that Jack talked about, of like, oh, they're giving me their life, which is what they would have wanted. And it's like, no, you're taking the love that is good, like treating these women with respect and love and care, and like bringing them into your lives and like integrating your two lives together. That's good. And you're turning away from it because you think your life is more important. So your pride is like usurping the true good of mutual love. So yeah, that's kind of my point, is like, I do kind of agree with Jack that I don't think, I've said this in a lot of places, with a lot of people. I think humanity has the greatest capacity for evil, but also the greatest capacity for good. And those two sides of the coin are what make us unique. Of like, you'll find a person who dedicates their entire life to giving food to the homeless or houseless, and like helping orphan children. And in the same like species, you'll find the guy that like goes out every Saturday night and like kidnaps a woman into a van and kills them. Like that's humanity has the extremes of both those capacities, in my opinion.
I did specifically not pick a wolf because I said an orca.
Orcas are wild, man. I specifically didn't get into the orcas because
you dodged it, but I'm not letting you. Are they evil or what?
I don't know. I think every instance in which we've seen them behave in like a manner of has been protecting their environment. Like I'm thinking specifically of the yacht people in Miami when the orcas were like sinking the yachts in Miami, and everyone was like, man, they're just doing it for fun. It's like, no, a yacht hit one of them.
Yeah.
And they like went and got their buddies and were like, like, we're going to get revenge. Is vengeance always evil? I don't think so. There's like a level to where sometimes it can be defensible.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe.
What do you think, Jeremy?
Well, first of all, I do think
are orcas evil? That is the new question.
That's the new question.
First of all, I'm pretty sure that if you can afford a yacht, then I don't have to care if that yacht sinks. That's most of where I'm at with that.
That's fair.
I don't know.
That's a fair opinion.
Like on average,
I don't know.
I'm not saying I agree with it. But I understand where it's coming
but
from.
It's fair. You understand, yeah.
Hey, we're all different, and that's okay. I think when it comes to evil, orcas are probably not evil.
Yeah.
I don't know how smart they get relative to human beings. So, because like, I think, like Travis was saying, intention does have to be part of it, and like evil, as it is traditionally understood, does need to be informed. There needs to be the knowledge of, say, a better alternative that would be more difficult. So because the evil, as it is typically taught and understood, is supposed to like appeal to someone with a weak will. Now, I don't know how weak the will of an orca is. Perhaps they're very strong-willed creatures. Maybe they're the best of us. Who could say?
I hope killer whales aren't the best of us. Like maybe blue whales. I hope blue whales are the best of us.
Blue whales could
pretty
be
cool.
You know, it is. I will say it is a hard flex from the blue whale to be that fucking big and to just not mess with anybody or anything ever.
What do you eat?
You know?
Krill. You know?
I mean, pale look krill, but like
that's suspicious. How you get that big on krill?
It is suspicious. You're telling me you ain't eat anything but krill?
And you're that yoked. I don't know about you. Have two hearts, homie. You have two hearts.
Okay. What you need that big stomach for?
No.
Jack or Jeremy, are you still on? Sorry.
I think he's still going. I think he was just getting started.
I can keep going. But like the idea of like evil is supposed to sort of appeal to the weaker will, which if we're tying things back to the movie, which I guess I'm gonna, that's like the movie does actually do a very interesting thing where Malcolm assumes he's better than his cousin because he's putting more effort into his sacrifice. even though his whole deal is just so much worse than just kidnapping a random lady.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. The movie has made me call into question what really is evil. Is it being smart enough to know the difference between right and wrong, or being too stupid to not know that what you're doing is just super bad? I don't know.
And the fact that Malcolm can't like view it, like he leaves because he's like, I can't see this. Like it's too much for me.
Yeah.
Like that's
What a little
supposed to be
bitch.
this. There's supposed to be this level of like, oh, I have a higher morality than my cousin. It's like, no, that's actually worse. Like, because I'm trying to think of the example. There's a movie I'm trying to think of where there's a comparison here, and I can't. It's escaping me. Where The Martian. No, not The Martian. Interstellar. Matt Damon's character, who like is gonna sacrifice Matthew McConaughey, and at the end he's like, I can't listen, and he just like turns his radio off because he like can't handle it. Like that's makes him worse than if he were able to like throw Matthew off the cliff and like watch it happen. I think it's worse that he's like, I actually can't even stomach the thing I'm about to do, so I'm just gonna ignore it and let it happen. But sorry,
I agree. Jack?
Yeah, I think evil comes down to perspective, right? I mean, I think if we look at, say, monster movies like Jaws or Orca in the 70s, they were certainly killing people, but I don't think there was any malice in it, at least not until you get to like Jaws 3D or whatever it was, Jaws the Revenge.
So just to be clear, is that also your official take on orcas? Are you getting that?
Yeah, well, I would say that Richard Harris is the bad guy in that movie for killing the mama whale, and the orca was just kind of getting revenge. So that was he got his just due for that. But I've argued before that, like in the movie The Witch, that the witch wasn't necessarily evil. Like the family comes out there and decides like, hey, this whole field and forest is now mine to do, which is obviously where the witch was living beforehand. So from the witch's perspective, right, these Puritans come and start cutting down her trees and plowing her fields and doing all these kinds of things. They're the interlopers. To the family, obviously the witch's deprivations upon them is evil, but it's perspective, and I think we see that in Keeper, where Malcolm makes the argument that his cousin's worse than him and the people down the street are worse than both of them. So in his mind, it's like a sliding rule. If there's someone worse, I'm not bad. They're bad. I'm just kind of doing what I'm gonna do. But then at the end of the day, Liz kind of does the same thing, right? She feeds Malcolm to the children, but Liz has got to feed them somehow, right? Unless she's going to be trapping deer and feeding them, which I'm assuming was not an option. Liz is going to now be the keeper of the cabin, and I would assume bring men home for them to feed upon. So, but I don't think anyone looks at Liz at the end of the movie and is like, oh, she's now become evil, right? She's the continuum of harm has continued, right? She's now fed Malcolm to them, and they're going to be hungry in another 10 or 15 years. So I think it's all perspective, right? If you're the one being the evil is being done to, you look at them as evil. If you're the one doing it, you don't see it as evil. You see it as a necessity or some other excuse. And I think humanity does that throughout the course of time, right? We've justified all kinds of horrific actions for like, oh no, this is necessary. We do these terrible things for a reason, or we're justified in doing so.
I think,
and it is interesting. I wanted to say about that witch point, because if you actually look at the witch, she does behave exactly like a wolf would, essentially. And yet we sort of still attach like a human morality to her, even though she's not exhibiting those behaviors. Because Jack, that's an interesting point. Her intent doesn't really seem to be to like torture the family. She basically treats him like any predator. You leave your baby lying around,
right?
A predator is going to get it, and that's what she does. She grabs that baby, and then she gets the next youngest one when he's wandering alone in the woods, and then just keeps picking him off. And it's not even really her that does anything to them after that point, because then Black Phillip's like, I got this from here. Right. And he has a very different he is actively torturing them, like
Right.
the raven chewing off a nipple and everything. So yeah, it's an interesting point that we still like sort of attach a human morality to a human, even if they sort of are exhibiting those same behaviors. Is an interesting way to think about it.
I think
Sorry,
that's
Jeff.
still where that's where I would respond to your point of intention, is like, especially with the witch and with this movie Keeper. Like, even if this movie had a sequel where Tatiana's character, she got her revenge, and I think that's the most justifiable act she can reasonably do for the duration of her life. But if she kept sacrificing men to these like pseudo children of hers, I would say like that intention is not justifiable. Like, revenge was one thing, and we can argue about that, but like feeding men to these monsters is another thing. And like, you're doing the same thing that you hated and rebelled against. And to the witch's point of like, maybe the witch has a purpose and a justifiable reason of like, they're encroaching on my land and like I'm getting rid of them like a parasite. But to do that is to directly lead them to like selling their soul or like giving themselves to literal Satan, which I think is not an intention that can ever be deemed as moral. So that's where I'm like,
true.
I think evil does have a lot to do with intention of protecting territory or getting your meal like a wolf is one thing, but going on some vendetta against men because one harmed you is another. And like, one of the easiest examples I ever use in like ethics classes with my middle schoolers is lying bad, and they always are like, yeah, because their parents told them like, don't lie. It's like, yeah, don't lie. Okay, should people who were hiding the Jews have just told the truth? And it's like, oh, like there's a level of culpability that's like, yeah, that gets a little more complex. Is like, is that bad to lie at that moment? Well, the intention is like to keep people from literally being executed. So I don't know, it becomes more complex.
I mean, it feels a little much to jump straight to the Holocaust and maybe start with like,
you got to do that, man. We got to jar.
Is it maybe you just
then you walk it
into
back? No, you go extreme and then you walk it back.
I feel like he's into it. Start with, is it wrong to just kind of sidestep the question of, does this make me look fat? And then
no, Jeremy, you look
work
great.
your way up.
It's one of my favorite comic strips of all time. Is it's like Abraham Lincoln and Mary Todd Lincoln, and she's like, does this dress make me look fat? And he's like, no, yes. He like hands his head. He's like, honestly. Yes.
Brutal.
Yeah, I think this leads to Clayton, unless you have more on that. I love the discussion. I could go on forever, but
go for it.
Since we're on the level of ethics philosophy, why not just jump right into my pretentious question of the week?
Let's do it.
There might be two this week because we have 2 episodes if I think of one by tomorrow. But I was watching, as one does, went down a YouTube spiral, found myself in like the acting class section for some reason. And this guy does videos where he goes from beginner to like Oscar winner, and he does the same scene where like beginner, intermediate, pro, Oscar winner all do the same scene, and he kind of talks about what are the differences between them. We could definitely apply that to this movie of like why. So that's my first question. Why was it that none of us seemed to be convinced by a lot of the performances in the beginning? Was it intention of the scene? In fact, I'll split this into 2. I want to do that one first. Let's keep it to Keeper. Yeah, why do you think it was that, like, I think everyone agrees, the relationship doesn't seem genuine, even when we can, like, justify, well, yeah, he's going to kill her, so he feels awkward, or, like, maybe, like Clay said, they're trying to do the thing where it's, like, a bad weekend, but Clay even said that wasn't convincing. So why is the first quarter to a half of this movie seemingly not performed super well? What do you think that's about? Jack first.
I think if we go back to Liz's first conversation when she's talking with Maggie, and she's very superficial, right? Like her, oh, I haven't been out of the city. I don't even know, the whole beige conversation. I think what they're trying to show is that she was very superficial, materialistic. That kind of like Carrie Bradshaw, Sex in the City kind of character is how I think they wanted to portray her. And here she finds, I think he's a heart surgeon, if I remember right. That Malcolm's a heart surgeon, and so she kind of on paper finds the ideal man. He's wealthy, he's a surgeon, he's got a cabin in the woods, all these different things, and to show how much she's willing to overlook, how much weirdness and awkwardness and uncomfortableness, and she's willing to put up with to kind of achieve her goal. That she's looking the other way because, well, we're going to do our weekend in the woods, and then we're going to go back, and I'm going to be Malcolm, the heart surgeon's girlfriend, and we're going to go in the city and go out to nice restaurants, and he's going to buy me things and all this other stuff that's there. So I think that was the intent, was to show, like, because Maggie tells her, like, hey, this is weird, like this kind of relationship you're in. He's probably married. You're probably the side piece. I mean, she tells her that, and Liz responds by hanging up, and getting all pissed off at Maggie until she calls her back and tells her to get an Uber to come get her. But so I think what they wanted to show is like there's so many warning signs, right? That Liz should have known, at all stages, and only for the fact she looked like the mother did she survive. Other than that, she would have gone down the same road as everyone else. So I think they didn't want to like trick the audience. I think Osgood wanted you to see like, hey, this was a bad idea from day one. Everyone's warned her about it. She's got warning signs, all throughout the course of it, and she still goes to the end, and the twist is that she gets to survive, and ultimately take over.
Do you think they pulled that off? I guess is my question. Like, do you think, ultimately.
Yeah, I think they did. If that was his intention, I think he accomplished it. I don't think it was the most effective tool. I think to me as an audience member, if they were this like happy-go-lucky couple, and then once he got her into the woods and away from all those things that they're used to, his behavior changed, would have been more jarring, right? You would have had that sense of like, wow, what's going on? This is not what I signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would have been more effective. For me, I think that would have engaged me more in the idea of like, oh, I could see why she would be, because you think like, why is she with this guy? Right. I mean, they seem like they have zero chemistry. He has no personality. He's not interesting. He's kind of, his talking is so belabored, right? Through most of the scenes, you're just like, oh, this guy just seems in pain the whole time. Like, where was the spark that she signed on for the last year, let alone to go out in the woods? So I think his intent was to show like, hey, she should have realized this was a bad idea. And I guess he pulled that off to a degree. I just don't think would have been the most effective way to go. I think shocking the audience, making him this like great dude, and then suddenly he turns into the asshole and he's cold and he's acting weird and there's all these weird clues and stuff. Would have been a more effective, would have roped the audience in more, because you're just kind of sitting there like, man, what's going on from the get-go.
Yeah, and like I love to make comparisons because that's who I am. But I think there's the movie I'm thinking of is Ready or Not. Does that really well. Exactly kind of what you're talking about, where the first like 15 minutes are like, oh, this guy's a good guy. He's on your side. And then as soon as the like game becomes hide and seek and he realizes like, oh, I gotta kill my wife. Like he's
sorry.
Like, well, I like my money. So, and also we made a deal with the devil and I kind of have to kill you. And he becomes a terrible human being like right away. And I think that was really effective in that movie where it failed in this one. So I think you're right, Jack, of like, especially just simply the car ride. Like if that would have done more work on that level of like them as a couple in the car. Cause we all hopefully know as married men, like a lot of times road trips are those times where you do have really cool bonding moments.
Totally.
Intimacy, and because you're there together or you're going to a destination, you got to fill time. That could have been a moment of oh yeah, Malcolm's great.
Yeah. Well, and I actually, again, I kind of like that they're not doing the thing that I feel like most movies do because it is what most audience members probably prefer, which is having them start like really happy. I kind of like that. Here's my big problem with the character dynamics and why I think it didn't work for me. The things I believe about Liz contradict her choices. Oh man, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Probably just moving too much. The things I believe about her contradict her choices. I felt like she is portrayed as a strong person who like speaks her mind, right? But if she is going to, like, she's obviously in a vulnerable position, but she didn't strike me just in her mannerisms and the way she talks, the way she acts, the things she does throughout the film, that she was like meek, you know? But she did feel vulnerable. Like she wanted to try to make this work. Something had clearly not worked in her recent past to a pretty catastrophic degree for her. And she doesn't have a lot of support from outside. So I think there's those extra levels of stakes. And the fact of the matter is, this stuff does happen like this in real life. Like you're not always lured to the cabin where you get murdered by somebody awesome. Sometimes you are lured by somebody who has actively abused you. Sometimes you're lured by somebody who you have all these red flags about, but you go anyway because you're not doing anything else that weekend, you know? And I think that's realistic too. So I always like getting to explore character dynamics and relational dynamics. That's probably my favorite thing about storytelling from different angles. But it has to all make sense. Like if she's gonna be this way, and after you introduce the cake, sure. Now you're like magic. Dumb choices because of magic. And like that's fine. Like I accept that. I'm here for a speculative fiction experience. So yes, give me the magic cake. But her taking that bite of the cake, I have a way harder time grappling with that. I have a way harder time having her stay out there in the first place and not just be like, okay, well, if you're going back to the city, maybe I'll just go with you. You know, like if she didn't say that, like if she didn't do it still, and he convinced her to stay, I would still be okay with that. But I would have liked her to at least say it. I would have liked her to at least call a couple of these weird decisions out. Because if you want to show me, oh, people do this despite the fact that they see red flags, true, like that angle, but you do have to pull it off. Like,
yeah,
tell me the red flags. She mostly stands up for him to her friend, and then we see like she's clearly having lots of interior struggle about it. And again, not uncommon for somebody to be in a really uncomfortable relationship in a bad situation where you just want to like storm out the door, but you're like, hang in there. Everybody has fights, blah, blah, blah. You know, like we've all been there as married men as well. And so you're like, I like that angle. I do. It's honest. It's true. And it doesn't always get shown. What a word showed is. But like, you do have to, like, the characters have to remain consistent, or else I'm going to lose my believability for them. And any empathy goes with that. I have to believe in them as a character to empathize with them, like that they actually exist. And that becomes hard when it feels like the page is on the screen for me, you know?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. The page is on the screen. Jeremy?
Well, you know, I find myself in this weird position of like, especially at the beginning before the movie fully gets its head stuck in a bucket. Like
of honey.
Yes, a bucket of honey. Hey, there you go. We did it. Yes. Like Winnie the Pooh, the movie does get its head stuck in a bucket of honey. Mm-hmm. It happens. But I actually did like the relationship at the beginning of the movie when they're just sort of traveling out there and getting there. That felt like very like real, but not like movie real, like actual people in like a semi-new relationship doing a thing that they haven't done together before type vibes, where it's like a little uncomfortable, but there's like small amounts of chemistry and it's a lot of giving the other person the benefit of the doubt type of thing. It doesn't film very well. Realism rarely does, like real realism, not movie realism. There's a huge difference between those two things. But like, you know, after that point, like all of Malcolm's stuff really only makes sense once you learn that he's been alive for a century or two. Because like, yeah, that's the only thing that really makes his whole deal make sense, other than being a wealthy hipster, which I guess it's hard to know the difference.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know,
Jack.
I think the cake scene is probably the most problematic scene in the movie, right? I think what you kind of, it's not even a matter of like suspending disbelief, because it, like we talked about earlier, it occurs at the most awkward time, right? They're
exactly
kind of getting hot and heavy. He knows she doesn't like chocolate, right? She's told him like, I don't like chocolate. I've never liked chocolate. So he knows she's not going to like it. So the whole scene just plays out bizarrely, and I think it throws off, and I think Clay it speaks to what you were talking about before. She's a strong woman. Why would she take the cake? Why is she not questioning what you want to have the cake now? This is, I'm not going to, I don't like chocolate. No matter what, I'm not going to like this chocolate cake. And why are you so insistent that I have a bite of cake that I'm not going to like? And it just,
right
that's the
now.
scene, I think that right at this moment.
Have the cake.
Yeah. Let's stop kissing. Have a bite of cake before we go any further. Just seems so disjointed, and like I said, that's where I think she kind of steps out of character when she's like, all right, fine, I'll have the cake. I feel like at that point she would have been like, Malcolm, I told you I don't like the cake. She said the cake tastes like shit. Why would I want to try it? I don't like chocolate as it is. Even if it's a great chocolate cake, I'm not going to like it. And his insistence and her acceptance just felt like just really off. And it's and I think that's the one scene I really struggled with the most in terms of like it feels too artificial. He's too insistent, she's too willing, the timing's too awkward. It just felt too contrived in that one scene, more so than at any other point in the movie.
I agree, because why is it cake? Is that really the best delivery method for this agent? Like, and is it really all the Fae can cook? Why would they even be able to cook cake? Why would that be the one thing? They would have started with bread. And before that, they probably started with soup. And they also don't cook. They just eat everything raw. So why are they cooking cakes in the first place? It's bananas.
But
have
even
sex with her and then bring her cake in bed, and she'll be way more likely to eat the cake. He's not even trying anymore.
But still.
To the level of
trying.
like the human relationship, you're right, Clayton. Of like, even if we tried to like give our mom seafood, and she was like, "We don't like seafood," she's like, "I hate seafood," and I'd be like, "Well, just have this like one bite of fish." She'd be like, "Get away from me!"
No,
before you open the Christmas presents, just have this bite of fish, right?
She'd be like, "Then I don't want to open the Christmas presents because I'm not going to eat the damn fish." Like, you're right, Clay. Like,
what line in the sand is this? Like,
I'll show you lines in the sand.
Okay.
Two things. First of all,
drama. Buddy.
Well, I guess first of all, fish isn't seafood. That's a whole other thing.
Scallops, anything. Whatever.
There's fish.
Our mom
there's
well,
seafood.
she hates fish, and some fish is seafood, but not all seafood is fish.
Exactly. But most of all, I think we've all been there, where there's only one thing you know how to cook.
Sure.
And you're gonna cook that for everybody, no matter what, until you learn to make something else. Like, that's right, I can make spaghetti.
That's true.
Like,
I want to imagine
the difference is one is spaghetti, which
and what's
like
a cake that tastes
most
like
people
ass?
can make.
Whatever.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
It's
It
like
does
shit.
taste like ass, which I guess
I
makes it
want to
better.
imagine a world where the Fae are like sitting there in the corner, like waiting, and he's like, "Eat the cake," and she's like, "I hate cake," and they're like, "But that's like eat the cake." Like, they just really want her to eat the
Yeah.
cake. Like the Fae are like, "Hey, this is all I can bake, bro. Like, come on."
This
just
is
eat."
literally it.
Yeah.
It's like,
I
why
know
can none of us boil water?
We're
I've
up
heard of
on-
spaghetti. Sorry,
but I
Trev,
do
go ahead.
want to. I want to do a pretentious question of the week, part 2, which
Do
is
it.
we were talking about performances. This YouTube video I was watching was talking about how like the difference between a lot of the beginner actors and the Oscar-winning actors. And the scene I was watching that he was using was the Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone in La La Land when they're like when he's telling her about the audition that he found for her, and she's like, "I can't do that because it's gonna kill me." And it's like really, really beautiful scene in my opinion.
Mhm.
And he has beginners to the Oscar winners. And one of the things that he says really makes the difference is that they play off of each other. So you can tell that they're both like rooted in the scene and that they're ready for any kind of like changes that are subtly made from the character motivations to play off of those changes. And they're not just like reading the script in a very like generic structural way. My question from that for writing to you first, Jack, and then to Clay and Jeremy, who also write. Where do you see that type of thing in dialogue with your characters of like, how do you remove yourself from like, I'm writing these characters to these characters are talking to each other? And like, when does that kind of change?
You know, it's I'm not a big outliner and stuff when I write. A lot of it is just kind of organic. You know, I kind of know where the story wants to go. And I think the characters just kind of develop their own voice at some point. You know, there's not and I think in honesty, I think that's where a good editor comes in. You know, I've had plenty of times where my editors come back and it's like, I don't think they would have spoken this sophisticated based on their background. I think you wrote this too sophisticated, or they'll say this person is in the elite class. They wouldn't use these words that a commoner would use. So I think you kind of, when you're writing, you kind of build that organic dialogue, and then you have to go back and kind of tweak it to add the realism into it. But I think when you're writing, the story just kind of flows into where it goes. And sometimes there's certainly been cases where I've intended to write a character one way, and the dialogue just kind of like organically grew in a different direction. I kind of had to go back and recreate that character in almost a different form because the story just kind of took that own direction on itself.
Yeah, I think so. In my brief stint of acting, the type of acting I tried to do was Meisner acting, and I'm still a really big fan of it as just a philosophy for doing art or living life in general. But the Meisner's quote is that like the best actors don't act; they inhabit the roles. When you see Tatiana playing Liz, that is Tatiana as Liz. But she is that character. She's all the way in, and she's in those situations, and she has like a professional actor is going to, dig deep and spend a lot of time with those feelings, with those emotions, with those circumstances, and they're going to internalize it in whatever way they do that to a level of depth that it allows them to perform the actions as if that's really happening to them. And it takes a lot of work. It's a whole artistic process. And I think writing works, the best art I think works basically that way all the time. When you allow yourself to get out of your own way and just be a fucking human being and play and explore and find joy in creation on the page. That's what good art is, in my opinion, or on the canvas or on the film roll, whatever. So I think that's when my favorite writing occurs, favorite, most real dialogue where the characters really feel like they take over and drive for themselves is those moments of that sort of state that you can get into where you get out of your own way. You don't care about any inhibitions. You're not correcting your grammar on the way or worrying about where this is happening, when this is happening. The characters take over and they have a real conversation. And these actors are doing the same thing in the movie. I think that's how good art usually works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. Like when you see like if we're talking actors, when you see an actor doing a performance that is just really doing it for you, it's like stained glass. Like the character as written is the light passing through, but the actor changes that light by being that, just and creates something entirely unique with their performance. And like having done acting and stuff, like when I go to say write something, when I write a scene, I know where it starts, and generally I do know where I think it should end. But like getting the characters from point A to point B is often very difficult because the characters make choices that surprise me. The guy writing down the things that they say and think. It's really weird.
Yeah.
I want to throw in too, I think, I don't want it to get misconstrued either, that I think the only writing that happens from that flow state or whatever is character based or dialogue based. I think you can experience that in all kinds of different ways. And like this story does that on the screen very well. The images are very intentional. They're either your style or they're not. They may not be your style. They're not particularly mine. But they were intentional. They were thought out. They played a role. And you can do that on so many different levels. And whatever you don't emphasize to a sufficient degree for your themes to be met and for the audience to feel a good payoff is where a good editor comes in, like Jack said.
Mm-hmm.
You know where else good editors come in? The end of the
end
fucking
of
show.
episodes.
When they gotta be like, we could talk about this all night, but it's time to stop doing that.
Yep.
Does anybody have any really burning thing to say, Trav? I did kind of cut you off.
No.
Okay.
That was I was just about to say that is my last question. I mean, I could throw in anecdotes about La La Land because I love that movie. But I'm gonna stop.
That's true. But so the last thing we're gonna do on this show is we're gonna rate this thing, and if you don't already know, our rating system is completely bananas and useless. It is how many drinks or whatevers do you need to enjoy this movie to the fullest extent, which could be really interesting for this one. Jeremy, we'll start with you.
Okay, so you're going to want to, pick your drink of choice. Like if you're trying to stay on theme, there's plenty of wine in the movie. There is some unnamed bottle of scotch with a white label on it. So you can just go ham. Do what feels right for you, or think of something that a weird friend once pressured you to drink that you didn't like very much, and you can just drink that. Just drink that. Start by downing one of those, and then, whenever there's a shot, you're like, wait, I can't actually totally see what's going on. Like, is this supposed to be like this? Take another drink. You will be very drunk within 10 minutes. And, just keep going. Drink about the cake, obviously. Drink when the cousin's there.
Yeah.
You'll want that.
You will.
Drink whenever there's a flashback because it'll make the fact that there's no sensible payoff to the flashbacks. It'll make that, it'll soften that blow for you. Okay? And then, have one every time you see a monster. Have one when you see a strange Eastern European girl show up after she dies, and then when you see like a slightly smaller, melty version of that same Eastern European girl, just sitting across from herself, but normal size.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
If you want to go back, and count those, you can. I'm not going to try to do that right now.
There's no real way to do so.
There's not.
You won't be fine.
And by Jack's definition, every time you see a monster is actually a lot less than we think. Every time you see a creature, maybe. But Travis.
I think there's two ways to approach this movie. You either stay completely sober and don't drink at all because it's a trip, or you go in with the knowledge that you're going to get plastered because you're going to say every time you think the thought, what the fuck? You're going to take a drink, and a strong one and a stiff one. And by the end, you're going to be like, oh, I get it. It was like the house the whole time, right? So, yeah.
Oh, she's their mother.
She's a mom. She's a mom. I get it. She's a mom. Okay. Yeah. And they need moms. They just really wanted their mom. You either feel like that at the end, or you feel like I did in a theater where I didn't consume alcohol, where you leave and you're like, I don't know what I just watched, but I kind of like recommend that.
That's awesome. I think you should do one completely sober. So everything this movie contains, all the jump scares, everything that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a couple days to get the what the fuck out of your head, like Travis was talking about, like Jeremy was talking about. You do I had to do the same thing, Jeremy. I was like, I think I hated that. But I liked some of it. I need to think about this.
Yeah, I really had to employ Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 rules, where it's like, there's a lot that I do like, but I still do hate this.
Yeah, that'll happen. And I was about 3 beers deep, full transparency. So I would go in sober like Travis did. And then give it a couple days and then do mushrooms and watch it again.
Ooh.
Oh, jeez.
If you like mushrooms. No, it might not be. It might just be really fun. It'll be kind of scary possibly at times, but I think this movie is really trippy. And if you already know what happens and then that the monsters are only going to kill dickheads, what's the big deal? Let them do it.
That one lady.
Just go along the ride with them. That's what I say.
They only kill dickheads and that one lady.
And that one lady. Yeah, they did kill her. And she may or may not have been a dickhead. It wasn't confirmed either way. She is a victim. That doesn't mean she was nice. So
bad things happen to bad people.
That is true. Exactly. Bad things do happen to bad people.
That's what they say. They also have an Liz, though, who I think is like kind of not a bad person. But hey, what are you gonna do? Yeah. They happen to good people too. Jack.
So I think I'm partly on the same page as you, Clay. I think this one you kind of have to go full tribal and take a good long drag of ayahuasca before you watch this movie. I think that DMT high will get you through all those like haphazard scenes at the beginning, but I think the payoff when the monsters reveal themselves would be epic. So I think that would be the way to go with that. Some kind of more mind altering substance to really. So all those flashes seem to make sense in your brain, and then when you see the monsters, it's the most mind blowing thing you've ever seen at that point.
There you go. Yeah, and I do think this is one of those movies that if you took it in on a visual first basis or like an auditory and visual first basis rather than like our tendency as writers and readers to like take it in at the story level, it might be an absolute banger. So yeah, go give it a try. And before we do get off of here, Jack or Trev, we did you, right? Yeah, we did you.
Yeah, we did. I do have. Can I really quick throw in, because I read reviews for fun all the time, and I just wanted to make sure that these got some limelight because I think they're hilarious. One is from a user on an audience member on Rotten Tomatoes who said, "half a star. It feels like a movie where people will make videos longer than the actual movie explaining all the symbolism." And
I think
love
we
that.
just did that.
And then
We did.
a reviewed critic, like a certified critic on Rotten Tomatoes, wrote, Osgood Perkins is doing some of the same things Ari Aster's doing, but the difference is that where Ari Aster tiptoes into the weird, it seems like the only thing Osgood Perkins is able to do. I appreciate that as well, because I think it's pretty true.
Yeah, I agree with that. Those are great reviews. And I agree with them both, though I don't think they're rating it the same thing at all.
No.
Jack, to rate you as a guest, been all right. But thanks for no, you've been awesome, man. You've been perfect. Thank you so much for coming back. Can you tell the good people of the Fermented Universe one more time who you are and where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm Jack Finn. I am a folk horror and dark fantasy writer, and you can find me on all the socials at The Real Jack Finn.
All right.
And
Beautiful.
Jack is always recommending lots of books. Thank you for that too, as well, Jack. You chucked me in there a lot, so I really
Anytime,
appreciate
brother.
that. And likewise, thank you to you, listeners out there. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Fermented Fiction. We've been Jeremy, Clay, and Travis. And we now have a Patreon. You can go check that out at Patreon/Fermented Fiction. We're going to have some really fun stuff on there. We have funny t-shirts being made by a couple of awesome artists. We got a couple of slogans that we've come up with on the show. So if you've been watching a while, you might recognize them, but they're pretty dumb, and it's going to be really funny.
Gonna rule.
We have lots of other tiers as well, lots of things you can do if you want to become more a part of the action. Please support our Indie Made program. We have low tiers starting $5. And you can follow us on socials. We have Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and all that other shit. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for listening to that massive diatribe, and goodbye. We'll see you tomorrow with Justin Robert Vinall debating King Kong at 6:30. Bye.
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 What?